Yeah, absolutely. Right. What I'm going to do is just ask everybody who doesn't need to speak to put yourselves on mute. It just saves, people's children running in and splitting their eyes on doors and things, disturbing the meeting. You will have seen a notification that this meeting is being recorded. So after the meeting, we will be editing it and putting it back up on the website so that people can see what was discussed. Really, other than that, we're going to start piling through. We are still waiting for a couple more people to join. I'm sure they'll join in the next couple of minutes. We're going to start off by handing over to Neil for an introduction. He's just getting the technology sorted out. If you haven't met Neil before, he's now the new chairman of the Forest Economic Partnership, and we thank him very much for doing that. He's it's a real coup for us. Neil probably being one of the most prominent people in the Forest of Dean, so it's very nice to have somebody like that on us, and we can ask him lots of questions about the LEP as well because he's also on the LEP. So that's really good. So we've got a couple of LEP representatives now.
Yep. So my colleague Ian Mean is there. Could you just give me screen sharing capability, David, please?
I can. Let me. Oh, goodness me. All right. Okay. I like that. There we go. That should have done it.
Let's have a quick. Yep, got it. Now what we need to do is do that, and you should be able to see it.
I can see that.
Great. Fantastic. Okay, so a bit of a quick introduction for me. Run a small business called Viserion. Sit on the LEP board with Ian and a number of quite prominent people. We've probably drawn down about £150 million of the funding, Ian, from central government for projects in Gloucestershire. I've been involved in everything from sponsoring the UTC school at Berkeley to being involved in some of the decisions that have made massive changes to the county. Viserion started in the Forest of Dean. It started in my garage, two people who kind of got fed up with corporate life, and we've been on a hell of a journey ever since. We listed the business just over 2 years from getting operational. We've raised somewhere in the region of about £25 million on the London Stock Exchange. We've acquired or built a company every year since 2013. And more recently, we were awarded the largest ever Innovate UK loan, which was £5 million. And a couple of weeks ago, we announced a £1.95 million defence contract. So we can do things in the Forest of Dean. And when I set up the Forest of Dean, one of the things that I really wanted to do was to kind of prove to everybody that you didn't need to live in London or in the Cotswolds or in Bristol or anywhere else, that there are opportunities for everybody, no matter where you are or what your background. So that's what we've been trying to do. So really pleased to be invited to be part of the Forest Enterprise Partnership. Obviously, I've kept a very close eye on it from the LEP perspective. And I know quite a few people that are in or around here. Hopefully that won't be too much of a problem and they won't hold that against me. But I've been working with Wendy on the Synderford Regeneration Board for probably the best part of 10 years. And really proud of what the Forest has achieved in the past. And I'm really hopeful that we can actually do better than that in the future. So I always like to be the underdog, and I always like to take the fight to other people. So hopefully you'll be able to join me on that battle. Wendy, I'm not sure if that's okay, but could you give us the update on the FEP, please?
Thank you, Chair. So my slot usually involves just giving a little bit of a burst on what the board has been doing and a little bit of an overview. You will be hearing later under project updates about some of the progress on our projects. We've got 8 live projects at the moment listed all together. So our last board meeting on the 7th of December was largely to welcome Neil and to familiarise Neil, with the project work that we've got in hand. So we took time to run through that and to introduce ourselves properly. So the board retains Andrew Callard, which is also good news. We've kept hold of Andrew's input. So we're seven strong at the moment, going into our third year of operation. We will continue to have a bi-monthly meeting into 2021, and we'll be fixing those dates pretty shortly. We touched on in terms of the updates, which you're going to hear more on later. We also mentioned we brought in a new role for the board members of project monitor. So the project monitor role is referenced in the board's the director's handbook, but we just chatted through that role in a bit more detail last time round. And this role we're going to give to most of the directors will pick this up, but it's just to improve our governance arrangements, and it helps to inform the board, giving unbiased opinions regarding each of the projects on progress and whether there's any additional support or guidance needed from the board as those projects are continuing. So for instance, if there needs to be a change from the original proposal that may have been approved at subgroup and then on to be approved at stakeholder level, the project monitor will be reporting that back to board just to keep tabs on that. So we have allocated, we've shared the roles around, in future, the board will just get closer to those projects just to, the directors will individually get closer to those projects just to keep a weather eye on how those are going. So I can touch very briefly, I think there's a slide next on the finances, just to show you what condition. I think it's one after that, I think. Yeah, that just gives you a list of what we've just been talking about. Thank you, that's the one I wanted. Just to let you know where we are with our accounts. We're in a healthy position at the moment, just over £16,000 in the board's bank account, and as you can see, the bulk of that is allocated to the one project, the Inspiring Forest project, which I'll touch on later. That's made up of a combination of Forest of Dean District Council grant funding and LEP grant funding to support the delivery of that particular project. And then we've got a small pot of core funding to cover our core costs to keep the partnership up, running and functioning. So yes, no, you can go to that next slide, that's fine. And it's just to say, although I mentioned we've got the 7 directors, we've got our terms of reference. I think we limit the board directors to a total of 12 within our terms of reference. So we are open to any stakeholder member that's interested to join us next year, wants to get more involved in what we're doing. Be very interested to hear. So if you'd like to self-nominate, or you've got you'd like to nominate somebody else to come and join us, we'd be more than happy to take you through what's involved becoming a director of FEP. So please get in touch. That's all I had, Neil, this morning on the overview. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we'll pass over to Nicola to talk about Excel.
Hello, good morning. Thank you for inviting me in this morning. It's really nice to see some familiar faces and new faces. I haven't got any slides, so if that's up to you if you want to keep it up there or take it down. And I'm not really sure how much information everybody knows about Excel. So do you want me to start right from the beginning?
Nicola, if you can run through, because some people will know a lot about it and some people will know absolutely nothing about it. And so if you give us the potted history and a brief explanation, that'd be great.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so Excel's been something that I've been working on for about 3 or 4 years within KWBL Group. The reason for introducing this project is because of the skill shortage within the construction industry. I'm third generation of the Bell family and will be successor of the business in a few years. And when I'm writing my 10-year plan for the business, it's very obvious to me that I won't have a business to take forward or to grow without the people. So it's really important. I started this journey about 3 years ago, that we needed to adapt some of our learning to actually inspire people to want to work in the construction industry. It's not necessarily that we haven't got the provision for them. It's a combination of that provision and what's suitable for and what the needs are of our own business. But it's also actually the appeal factor is completely lost now. We've lost the sort of father-son duos who used to dabble on plant machinery and farm machinery, and it really got them into sort of the manual labor of things, and construction was one of the popular trades back then. Unfortunately now we've gone sort of habitually digital, that some of those skills are lost, and some of that aspiration is lost. So the key for Excel is all about reinvigorating that aspiration to want to work in construction, and for both men and women. What we do in construction now is completely different to the sort of anecdotal evidence, what we know of construction. So it's not a dirty place to work, it's not a horrible place to work, it's a good, clean environment, well-being is well looked after. All the manual labor is, well, not all of it, but 90% of it is taken out with all of the digital equipment we've got. And there are exciting roles. You know, we've introduced drone pilots, engineers and technical engineers over the last 2 years. So job roles are evolving all the time. So it's a really exciting place to work, and we want to bring those people on. So Excel is going to be based in Cinderford on Wimsey Industrial Estate. The vision started off quite small. We started off with two, and initially our case study was based on 2 very small training hubs, one in our yard in Cinderford and another one in Cardiff, where we took on 23 groundwork apprentices a couple of years ago, and they finally graduated February this year. Since then, a plot of land became available on the estate, which we just grabbed with both hands. It was like the stars were aligning, and then we were lucky enough to be able to be successful in the LEP bid too. So the vision is substantially grown as people have got involved, and our aspirations for it, I guess, because we were thinking, oh, this is something for our business. Actually, it's not. It's a national pandemic, this skill shortage, and we need, if we can make a big impact, let's do that. And thankfully, the money for the LEP has enabled that sort of vision to come true. So it's all about inspiring the next generation. It's about upskilling and training our current workforce on new digital technology and sustainable construction. And we're also a facilitator in that we're connecting industry and education. So who better to do that than people that actually work, live and breathe it all the time. So we are partnering with University of Gloucestershire, we're partnering with Gloucester College, we're partnering with the Career Hub. So we've already got those introductions to the schools, the college, the university, and we can facilitate an offering from MVQ level 1 to postgraduate degree. So again, for the aspirational side of things, it's really showing construction candidates that they've got a really good career path. It's not just you come in on an MVQ level 2 and then that's it for the rest of your career. There's so many more options out there, and so many different levels for every level of academia. So sorry if I'm rambling. Work has started. We've got planning permission. The piling's been done. We will be ready to launch, and I'm pushing my build team seriously hard at the moment, but we'll be ready to open in January next year. Sorry, not January, November next year, to have the intake of students in January 22. So I suppose it might be worth me just opening the floor for any questions, because I'm sure I've missed lots of things, but I'm literally talking about it day in, day out, so I forget who I've spoken to.
Okay, Nicola, I mean, from the LEP point of view, you know, we scored very highly. It was, yeah, it went through that process relatively easily. It's obvious to everybody the need there were some challenges, and you know, we've talked about those before around connectivity, which are other challenges for the area. You know, how do you get apprentices to training centres if they're in the middle of the forest? You know, my question to you is, what do you need from us to really make this happen and to be a huge success and to be a kind of shining light in the county, if not just the Forest of Dean?
Yeah, that's a really, really great question. I suppose a start of that is we've got a fantastic steering group, and we had our first monthly meeting 2 days ago. So Rob Jenkins is part of the steering group. We've got the CFO from Gloucester College. We've got the business development from Gloucester University. We've got the CEO of Clarkson & Evans, who are a massive apprentice provider in Gloucestershire. And we've got the managing director of Barnwood Construction. So we've got a real good mix of industry, public sector, and private sector, which is nice, because we've got a variety. You know, it's not about KW Bell. We will benefit from it, and it's going to help sustain our business, but it's not about us. It's about what we can provide for the county and for those school leavers. So they will be bringing another angle to it. So I suppose anything to strengthen that. The issue of connectability is been brought up quite a bit. We are looking at ways, and it might be that we have to take a punt on providing private transport from the train station. So where we buy a minibus and do that ourselves. We do have the Belfry, which is in Little Dean. So that's a family-owned sort of hotel pub, which has got 40 rooms. So we're looking to see how we can utilise that provision, and if we're doing block courses, we can provide accommodation as well. So we have got a few options. Sorry, you're on mute. Are you trying to talk to me?
I'm trying to work out a way of having the presentation and also seeing all the presenters. Can someone shout out if they've got any questions at all? Because I can't see everybody on the call. So if anybody's got any questions, can they speak up now?
I've got a question, Neil. It's Dave Trevelyan.
Please go ahead, David.
It's absolutely brilliant. I mean, having a construction background for the last 20 years, I'm, you know, well aware of the skill shortage, and I think it's been talked about a lot. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Construction has changed massively. I suppose at the moment, obviously, we're talking about apprentices, and I guess, you know, it's more about getting young people into the industry and things like that. Is there any plans or thoughts around sort of midlife career changes and things like that, Nicola?
Yeah, that's evolving as well. And again, you know, this is really the start. We've got a whole, well, I say we've got a year. That's not it's long, but it's not very long when you're trying to plan a business. Yes, we want to look at that. You know, I came into the industry 10 years ago, and I'd had my 2 daughters by then. I came into it. So yeah, so my background, I came into it as training administrator, doing part-time. I worked my way through the safety department. I took myself off to university to a master's degree, and I'm doing an MBA at the moment. So it's, you know, I love the fact that people continue to learn, and I will always be an advocate of that. So you know, there's no reason why any woman in the Forest of Dean in Gloucestershire can't do exactly the same journey that I have, and we can support that. But we will hopefully be working with the Department of Work and Pensions to see how we can help sort of their job seekers as well, and whether we can get any funding for sort of job ready courses in the future. So we're looking at, you know, it's not, yes, you're right, it's not all about apprenticeships. It's about lots of different, you know, we can do accelerated apprenticeships for more adult learners as well. And we're already getting interest, and actually from a lot of women, which is really encouraging.
Yeah, I mean, I would always say that any of the activities that we get involved in should be all encompassing for the whole community, young, old, you know, male, female, whatever, you know, is right for that particular job. I mean, you've got the perfect storm at the moment in terms of a real need for construction, for house building, especially in the county. You know, we cannot build enough houses at the moment. That's always a very difficult thing, because no one wants new houses in their backyard, but they want to have access to houses for their children and to move around. So it needs to be done in a careful way. But one of the big limiting factors, and the limiting factor on KW Group expanding, is access to skills. And you know, what I've always been keen on is to have a pathway for people. So you know, the schools sometimes don't view construction as a worthy outcome for an education. You know, I sit here having been educated or finished my education in the county at Wydene, having kind of loused up my A levels because, you know, I found all of the naughty things in life like rugby and drink and all sorts. That I had to change my plans, and I went through an apprenticeship with a local company, which was Lidmet in Lydney, and that was great for me. That really did give me a massive advantage against my peer group, not only at college and university, but also in the workplace. And so we've kind of got to sell this to the schools, that actually not everybody can be a managing director at 21 or a sales director at 19. And you know, there is a route to be able to get to that. You can become a success, and that requires hard work and good education, not necessarily in a school or college, but you know, in training centres and on the job. So I see your centre as being the first of many centres that are very specific to closing that gap between school leavers and work.
Yeah, and I hope so. And you were exactly right. So the schools that I spoke to, and you know, I've done a lot of research over these past few years, and been into schools and spoken to some of the head teachers, and it's not a detriment to them, but they just don't know how to sell construction because they don't know about it themselves. So you know, part of our steering group, we actually spoke about getting the teachers in to excel, show them, you know, the new simulators, show them the JCB suite, showing the drones, showing the technology that we use now, so they can promote it themselves. That, you know, we don't have to do all the hard work. By selling it to them, they can promote that as well, and just getting them to listen to the diverse opportunities there are. Because it's not, you know, we haven't just got bricklayers, electricians, carpenters, and plumbers. There is a whole facet, a massive catalogue, you know, marketing, HR. And there's loads of different skills that we need in construction, and yeah, that can definitely help. But I'm the same as you. I dropped out of my A levels, much to the concern of my parents, and didn't know what I wanted to do. Got married at 19, had my kids when I was 20. So you know, I know things can, in the right environment as well. And if you actually enjoy the place that you work and the things that you're learning, you can really do what you know, sky's your limit, really.
Good. Any more questions at all for Nicola?
There's a question in the chat.
Oh.
I've got it.
Yeah, I was just going to call that out. It's from Helen Barnum. She's asked, will these apprenticeships be part of the government scheme, or will they be promoted locally?
I don't 100% understand the question.
Sorry, I'll speak. I typed it in because I thought I'd rather than speak, but so basically, obviously, as you know, the government have invested a lot of money in providing X amount of apprenticeships, and I was just wondering whether it would go on that sort of, would it be promoted through that, or would it be very much a local, so, you know, giving people who are local obviously the opportunity, or would it be opened up to a wider field? I think that was the question. Hopefully that makes sense.
Fearful of giving a wrong answer. I'm assuming, so we work as under a prime, so our subcontracting is through Gloucester College and Gloucester University. I'm guessing at the moment where we are that it's an offering to all. So we use that we would go on to the government portal as a training provider through the Gloucester College. I don't know if I'm not.
Yeah, that's fine. No, it's fine. It's fine. And could I ask another question then? So you mentioned about school. I think Neil, you mentioned about schools as well. So how is it going to be marketed to the guys at school? Because been doing quite. I'm obviously a member of Colford Town Council, so I'm here in a councillor capacity today. Obviously we're doing quite a bit of stuff with the youth, obviously those sort of the 11 to 17 age group. And obviously a lot of them are sort of like disheartened at their options when they leave school, especially those ones that are underachieving. So, and a few that I spoke to, we've been doing a bit of engagement work just recently. There was quite a lot of girls who said that they fancied going into construction, because obviously the options they said were open to them as been under were health and beauty or construction, because that was what was local. And there was quite a few of the girls we spoke to who said they would have liked to have done construction, but they were sort of dissuaded from it. So I'm just wondering how we, you know, how is there any plans like, and is there anything we can do?
What we've got at the moment, so my sister's got a really strong construction background. She's and she's got a lawyer background as well, but she's got a massive network in housing association, construction, and house building. So part of our connect part of Excel is how we connect industry to education. And what we've already done is signed up partners in industry who are willing to take on apprentices. So when we have this all formalized, they're basically signing up to take 2 apprentices a year. So they could be it could be like somebody who's going into sales for JCB. It could be somebody who's going into maintenance or groundworks. It could be anything. So all these employers basically sign up to say that they're going to have 2 apprentices. So when we go into the schools and we tell them about Excel, we say that we've got these placements already set up. So we act as a facilitator and we match the school leaver to the employer, and we facilitate all that learning. And we make sure that student leaves 100% job ready with everything they need, that it's fit for that employer. So we work with the employer to make sure we bolt on all the extras.
I mean, I think we've got, you know, there's a big job here to be done that I think the FEP can really help with. So a number of years ago, Vasarian ran an apprentice competition and a bit of a job fair. And I know Mickey and Wendy were trying to organise that, but because of COVID, we've not been successful. But that's one of the areas is that we kind of need to show kids that actually there is a world outside of A-level maths, physics and chemistry, and that, you know, there are huge opportunities for them to find a rewarding and satisfying job, which may not be, you know, very, very tight kind of scope that the schools offer. So work placements, work experience, opportunities, promotion within the schools, within the councils, and getting everybody in the forest to work together, which is a really difficult thing, because the forest tends to be quite challenging in terms of getting Lydney working with Colford and Colford working with Sinford and so on. So I think the FEP brings that glue to actually make that kind of happen. And with KW Bell's or KW Group's kind of involvement, and this is a showcase, I think actually it's got a lot of foundations and a lot of momentum now for us to build on and to really give these kids the opportunities that they deserve, because a lot of kids at 16 don't know what they're going to do, because they may have done 2 weeks or a week's work experience in their mum's friend's factory or their mum's friend's shop, but that's not relevant to what they actually want to achieve. And so that's one of the things that we've really got to work on, is in a way that kids understand. So we always tend to look at the world from our perspective, but actually if you're 15 or 16 years old, if it's not on Snapchat, it's not going to happen. So we kind of need to alter our marketing to to satisfy our clients, which are the children. And so, you know, case studies and site visits, and actually, you know, picking up the phone and showing, you know, what a JCB driver does on a day-to-day basis is phenomenal, because kids get that. And maybe we've got to have our own portal to be able to get those kids to look at. The other thing is to have a little bit of fun. We're all too serious, I'm afraid. Yeah. And kids don't really get serious. They kind of don't understand it. They kind of want to see the world, and it's our opportunity to be able to show them what the world is actually like, you know.
And warts and all. Let's be honest. You know, it's not all fun and games, but let's just celebrate that. What it is.
Thank you, Neil. Can I just add a little bit to that? Again, it's responding to Helen's question, really. Neil's covered it largely, but the Inspiring Forest project is intended to do exactly what Helen was asking about, the engagement with the schools, and to make those initial connections. So KW Bell Group kindly is sponsoring that event, and COVID has put the kibosh on us being able to do any physical events as we planned to this year. Obviously, March was going to be the first one up at Dean Magnus School, but again, we're promoting it as this is not a careers fair kind of an event. It's going to be a real hands-on. We're going to have the plan was to have distinct zones, so there would be a construction zone. There'd be a food and drink zone, but there'd be practical applications happening in those. So, young people can actually get involved in doing a task there and then, and chat to people that are working in that particular business. So that's just one flavour. I'm going to touch on Inspiring Forest later about what we're doing to sort of with Rob Jenkins' input as well from the LEP. What we're going to do to try and to trail the Inspiring Forest project, because we're still going to be in limbo, not being able to do the direct events for the early part of next year, I imagine. So we're looking at a digital solution for that. So I'll come back to that, but hopefully, Helen, that gives you a flavour of how FEP is working with existing businesses already, and we are planning to pick that up in some shape and form. Thank you.
I'm just a bit conscious in my job as chairman. I kind of need to move on to the other things, otherwise I'll be criticised for taking everybody's day up here. But I just wanted to say, Nicola, this is a fantastic opportunity for the Forest, and I'm kind of right behind you. I know Ian's expressed his support as well from the LEP, and we kind of want to make this work and be a real big success. So anything that we can do to help you, and I'm sure there's a lot of people on this call that will also do the same thing.
Yeah, and to just add to that, so again, thank you. And I haven't just got anything right now, but it will be the case that I'm one for leaning on as many people as I possibly can. I don't want to do this on my own. I can't do this on my own. I know that it's just going at such a pace, and it might be that I come to you in a couple of weeks' time and say, "Oh, can you help me with this?"
Yeah. Well, yeah, we're there to help. So
Yeah, and I really, really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
One of the things in the Forest is that, the people are really resilient. They've had to put up with an awful lot, but they're also very, very creative about getting stuff done. And so, there's a lot of people that will help you. Sometimes we're all a little bit prone to just fighting our own battles. And the strength really comes from us all joining together and getting behind things like this.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Neil, can I just say one thing very quickly? Nicola, this is a fantastic idea, but you're absolutely right. The key will be the schools.
Yeah.
And you've got a year till you open. I'm sure that we could help you with doing some showcase events throughout that time, particularly, as you say, involving teachers. I've nothing against teachers, but in my experience of developing young people in apprenticeships, there's sometimes a little behind the curve. So I think what you're doing is just brilliant, but also I think you need to market yourself wider. This is a great idea, but you perhaps need to put a bit more energy into promotion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I take that on board.
Sorry to add a bit more. It's Rob Jenkins from GFirst. I head up the education and skills team. I'm also the new manager of the careers hub that we've got for Gloucestershire, which is funded essentially from Westminster. Just to kind of, I guess, reassure people in the group that this is really about those key school relationships. It's something I met with Nicola coming up 3 years ago, I think, the first time. And, it was instantly, obviously, a really good idea. It answers so many of the skills priority questions that we've got in the LEP, as you touched on, Neil. But also, the Careers Hub is a real opportunity to connect education and business. I'm really pleased that KW Bell are the first cornerstone employers to sign up to support the Careers Hub, and Nicola's on our steering group as well. So the priorities really are aligned. But it is about getting the right message to schools, and it is about getting in there early enough to make that message really valuable. So not wait till year 11. Let's get in there at year 7. And like you say, Neil, let's make it fun and interesting. And it's not about using a sledgehammer to crack the nut, but it is about having that long-term proper connection. So I would, I greatly value any extra support that this group can give to those connections within schools. But there's at the moment there's only one school in the Forest that isn't signed up to be part of the Careers Hub. So we're doing pretty well so far, and I'd be happy to give more of an update on that as we go through.
Just name and shame, please, Rob. Which school's not signed up?
Ironically, it's Dean Magna who are going to host the Inspiring the Forest event, and that's mainly because they had a change of member of staff. So the careers lead that had been there for many years is basically on part-time, and they've got a new member of staff in who's really keen on being involved, but it was just too much at the beginning of term. They are, I feel that they're in the hub in all but name. We just need to do a little bit more work to get them properly on board.
I'm happy to sign a letter from FEP or from in my role as a board member of GFirst to get Dean Magna over the line. So
fab, thank you.
Absolutely key to get that done.
And it's like we've said before about that connectivity within the Forest as well. The more we get these schools kind of communicating with each other, and which is what the Inspiring the Forest event was about, the better. And actually, the more voices that are asking them to do that, I think the better. We've had a really tough job over the last couple of years getting into schools, but we're really there now. So we've, of the, I think 47, 48 schools in Gloucestershire that we were targeted to get, that we could possibly have in the hub, we've got 43 sign up. So, the appetite is there in the schools. We just have to deliver it, and it's people like Nicola and the Axel Centre that will really help us make those connections.
It will. Sorry, can I come in at this point, because I'm an enterprise advisor for Dean Academy at the moment, but why Dean previously? And actually, you can go into the schools and brief the teachers. It is about communication really, and the teachers don't understand the work landscape, and they need to. So that they're hungry for that information, and so it's about planning. I think those events and talking to teachers as well, so they get a real understanding. But it's so exciting. It's so exciting for the kids and. In this area, just because they can't be what they can't see, and they'll see it. And the aspirations, unfortunately, when you do interview girls, a lot of them talk about childcare because they just don't know any other stuff, and that's in our secondary schools, and this is going to change that. So well done, everybody. It's fantastic.
Good. I'm going to have to move on there, Nicola, okay? But as I say, all of our support. Rob, you'll need to get in touch with Viserion because they're not part of that yet, and they really need to be. So we're happy to support. So if you drop me an email or something, I'm sure that I can get the right people to do it.
I would absolutely love to do that. Thank you, Neil. Good.
Just before we move on, is there anything absolutely desperate? Otherwise, we can contact Nicola separately, but I do want to try and keep the meeting on track if I can. Well done, Nicola. It's a great initiative, and as I say, you've got all our support.
Thank you.
Lauren, can you talk about public procurement?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Lauren. I work for Publica, which is a company that provides procurement on behalf of the Forest of Dean District Council. I think really what I need to talk about here is how we advertise our procurements. So we use a portal called Intend. We advertise all of our procurements on there. We advertise works, services and products. On that portal. To access the portal, all suppliers will need to sign up. It's a really simple process to sign up to. We've got a guide that we will circulate around after this meeting, which can be used for everybody to sign up. Yeah, like I said, it's a really simple process. I'm just trying to think of what else I need to really say, to be honest. To view all the procurements, they're all on that site. So once you've got your account, you'll be able to see everything on there that we've published. When you're asked to sign up, you'll be asked to assign yourself to a business category code. These work very similar to CPV codes. I don't know if anybody's aware of what they are. I mean, probably a lot of you are. So basically, once you assign yourself to one of these codes, any procurements we publish that fit into the same category code, you will then be alerted that opportunity is on the portal. So that's a way of you seeing anything on there that's of interest. Also, obviously, they're all advertised on there anyway, so it'll just be a case of everybody sort of looking on there to see what's up there. Yeah, I think, sorry, I rushed through that quite quickly. Yeah, and obviously all of our contact details will also be circulated for everybody to get in contact with public procurement for any issues with the signing up process. Yeah, is there any questions? I know I rushed through that so quickly. I was a bit confused really of what to sort of talk about.
Thank you, Lauren. It's Wendy Jackson, Regeneration Manager at Forest of Dean District. We really wanted you just to say what you've already said there. That's great, just how simple it is. No, that's fine. Just to say how simple it is to get registered, really. So the name of the game today was just to try and encourage more Forest and Gloucestershire businesses to get themselves registered as an Intend supplier and get the all-important supplier ID number, really, so that once you're in the system, I think, and keywords are included in any tender or request for quotation, that you will automatically get sent an email to say, you know, this contract of work services, etc., is available, and then you can register an interest. And it's as simple as that, isn't it? As simple as just sending an email back.
To be honest, the guide that we're going to circulate explains absolutely everything about sort of Publica and who we are and what we do and how to register. It goes through a step-by-step process. It's such a simple process to sign up to. It's really, really easy. It's literally just a case of putting in a bit of information about the company, and you sort of go from there, really.
And also, as anybody that's registers within the Forest would not just see contracts of work emanating from Forest of Dean District Council. There are other local authorities included in Intend, aren't there, Lauren? It's not just the Forest.
Yeah, no, there are a few other local authorities that are included. So yeah, the opportunities are sort of on a wider based area rather than just Forest.
Ian, I know you had a bit of a question there.
Yeah, Lauren, yeah, great idea, but how do people really know about it? I mean, this is going to interest a lot of smaller companies. We often find in the Forest this is a big issue. How are you going to promote this?
Well, it's all over each council's website under the procurement section. Really, you know, all our tenders over the value of 10k are put on that portal, but then as you know, as to the regulations, everything that's over 25k are on Contracts Finder, and above that overdue. So it's sort of, we just follow the same sort of promotion as every other council, really, as publishing, in regards to publishing our projects.
Just
So
wondering, Ian, whether, sorry to cut in, Lauren, whether we could use Business West and other networks, Ian, just to promote you know, sell to the councils.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. Totally, I think it's simple to use every means possible here. It's quite a good story, isn't it, as well? Particularly where you've got local companies in the Forest who have signed up and can talk about it. I think it's, you know, it's a good little business story.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm keen on this whole, a couple of strands, the one being, you know, buy local, you know, buy right. And the other thing is about promoting the Forest as a place to get stuff done. And so, you know, my questions were very aligned to Ian, you know, how do companies do it? Because a lot of companies are put off with public procurement. You know, they think that they won't be successful before they've even started the process. So making that much easier and guiding them through it is probably a job for the Growth Hub as well, Wendy. You know, making sure that we kind of make a big splash of it, make sure that people understand that they can be, in the pot to get these. I mean, it's very similar to Nicola's proposal. People think they can't be successful, but that's why I'm keen to support it, because we can demonstrate that actually businesses in the Forest of Dean, if they've got a great idea, can develop and bring these projects to fruition. So I think it's the same with public procurement. So we probably need to catch up, Lauren, and work out a way of being able to spread the word far and wide that that there is opportunities for companies, no matter whether they're big or small, as long as they meet the criteria.
Maybe
Yeah,
it could be just a quick demo, perhaps. Perhaps we could just do a quick sort of minute-long video clip, Lauren, just to show how easy it is to register, and perhaps even to identify some of our recent suppliers and do a case study. That might be nice if we've got somebody that's happy to say how they're working with us. And
well, it's quite interesting that we're making and distributing face masks, but we have no contracts in Gloucestershire, yet we can supply to Hyundai in South Korea. It's bonkers, and we just don't know even a company that's a bit bigger like ours, not terribly big but a little bit bigger, still doesn't really understand how to navigate that whole thing. So absolutely, I think there are lots of opportunities here, and I know the government will want to push local sourcing where they can. The one thing that COVID has shown us is that we kind of need to be a lot more resilient around our supply chains and have access to supply locally in case anything like this was unfortunate enough to happen again.
Neil, I think the point you make there was a story last week saying just that the government is really keen because of COVID to develop local supply chains, and perhaps with the new growth hub, the procurement issue could be a regular feature in that. I talked to an engineering company some time back in the forest who work for McLaren, but they can't get Renishaw to talk to them. Now that's bonkers, isn't it? So, I think there's a big, Neil's the expert here, but it's again a communication situation. And as Neil says, we've got to humanize it, use a few examples of people who have done it and are doing it.
I think, can I come here as well, actually, because I've been asked by Bath and North Somerset Council, I don't know if I'm allowed to mention them, to do some stuff around employability. There's great need for that, particularly with particularly with the over 50s, basically. And basically to do that work, I need to work with the DWP, and we're going through that procurement process at the moment, and it's very, very difficult. So, any hand holding with regard to that, or work, I don't know, to be able to work directly for Gloucestershire or where we're sort of based would be a really good thing. And it is for a small business. I don't want to be going through that procurement process, which is very onerous, and also it's targeted to very large businesses. So yeah, any help with that would be great. And we've got the skills here, we've got the talent, we've got the skills, the talent, but it's just getting those contracts, really. So any help with that as far as small businesses are concerned would be really welcome.
I think we've got some powerful people on the call here in order to push this agenda. The Forest of Dean needs to get its fair share of that public procurement. So, myself and Ian can beat Mark Hawthorne up on the corridor before the board meeting. Richard, you need to apply pressure in Cabinet that any decision, any procurement should be given to local if it makes sense. We're not looking for situations, there's a really bad story the other day where the government had made a lot of people a lot of money, probably not wisely. But where the system is being followed, then local companies should be given that option, because there's no doubt that there's going to be some tough times coming, and if they're spending that money, then there's no reason why they shouldn't be spending that with local companies. And I'm kind of massively keen on that whole agenda. So, Bernie, I missed you off. Yeah, obviously you need to apply pressure as well.
Yes. Thanks, Neil. Yeah, I apologise. I was late. I completely forgot about the meeting until I looked in my diary. Yeah, the point you made about our cabinet. I mean, my cabinet portfolio is the economy and the recovery and all that program that goes alongside that. And I think what the comments that have been made so far are important. And to help Lauren, perhaps we can, looking at Wendy as well, whether we can put something out on our business matters, just to make it easier. And also I'll talk to our communications team and see if we can get something out regarding the procurement activities as well on our communications. I think it's important that we do that because it's, you know, we are trying to encourage local use of companies and so on. So I'll take that on.
Thank you, Bernie. I think it's one that myself and Ian should also bring up at the LEP board meeting, and that the LEP should be, you know, weighing in deep, saying, you know, opportunities where they are appropriate and applicable should be going to local companies. So I look forward to your support there, Ian, on that. Richard, you had a question?
Yeah, thanks, Neil. It was actually, it's more of a for your information. Some years ago, when I was a county councillor, we organised an event at the Speech House where we got the procurement team from county and also from the Forest of Dean down, and invited local businesses through the auspices of people like the Federation of Small Businesses, and it was a very good event, Neil. And I just wondered if there might be some appetite to try and organise something similar for the future, because like you, I'm very keen that what work there is around should go to forest companies. Thanks, Neil.
I think that's a great idea, Richard. And, you know, sometimes, you know, some of these ideas, you know, even when they're successful, you know, they kind of peter out a little bit, and it's our job to kind of reignite that. So I think that's one for the board to get behind, Wendy, and to say, yeah, we're going to do it. You know, Peter at Speech House has got that new facility there. Interesting enough, he also wanted some G1st funding to help that along, but he wasn't successful. But, you know, I think we can get Peter involved, and even things like the new college, or you know, there are plenty of venues now for us to be able to do that, and they're success stories. You know, we have got a new, you know, £10 million college, which is just down the road. We will have Nicola's training centre. We'll have other projects. And why don't we? Instead of inviting them, I think we should tell them that they've got to come along. You know. And we look forward to the political support to kind of make that happen. But yeah, as far as I'm concerned, procurement should be local, and it has to be, as I say, challenged, appropriate and applicable. But what a great opportunity for the county to support its businesses, and for its businesses to then support the county. So, you know, let's get on with it. Let's tell them, let's get a meeting in the diary, and tell them they've got to come along. And if they don't want to come along, we'll talk to their bosses. So, and we'll get the MPs involved and stuff.
Thank you, Chair. I've just messaged Lauren separately in the chat, just to say pretty much that we'll get a meeting fixed in the new year to look at comms, and just to pick up everything that's been said here. But a local event again would be something that we could put some FEP energy into. Thank you.
Neil, I think also that we're sort of talking about the same thing here. This is a great constituent for a showcase for forest business, isn't it? KW Bell as well. It's not just one item here. This is all about prosperity in the forest, helping the forest business. And I think you've got a really strong situation here. And protect, you know, get something in the diary, you know, hold it at the college perhaps, you know, get the MP involved, as you say. Recently, I was asked by HS2 about Maybe Bridge. They did something down there because they're supplying bridges for HS2. So I just think this is a big issue.
Yeah, I absolutely get it, Ian, and I think it's a real big opportunity. You know, what I'm interested in, and the reason that I became involved in the FEP, is I actually want to show the rest of the county that the forest is #1, and that it can actually show them what to do. So we want the best training centres, we want the best events, you know, we want to be able to show, there's nothing makes me happier than to go into the G1st LEP board meeting, knowing that we've done a great job and that we've shown other people what to do, you know, and, you know, I think we're doing that from the LEP in terms of the other 38 LEPs or the other 37 LEPs, and I think the forest can do that in the county, if not in the southwest and further. So, you know, let's make a firm commitment that we're going to do this event. We're going to invite the procurement people. I'm very fortunate the world that I'm working in at the moment involves people like HS2. And we can, you know, the real benefit of these networking events is actually KW Bell might not know that I'm involved in 3D printing structures. And so when they've got their 2D, you know, their two JCB diggers out the front there, and I've got a 3D printed confinement room or whatever, then suddenly you open up those conversations within the district, you know, and suddenly, you know, KW Bell have got a massive competitive advantage, you know, from brokering those deals, and so, you know, I honestly believe let's not mess around. Let's get a date in the diary. Let's talk to the county. Let's get the procurement people on side. Let's get the highways people. Let's get, you know, have a bit of a subgroup we might need in order to get this done. But let's get them there and let them see what the district can actually offer. The other thing I'm really keen on is if G1st is giving out money, which is government money, taxpayers' money, that there is an advantage to the local communities in that happening. So, you know, it can almost be a stipulation, and something that I think we should work out at G1st, and we've talked about it before. We've got to be a little bit careful because of competitive rules. But, you know, why can't we say, if we're going to give you a big chunk of money, that, you know, that it's built by local people, or it's, you know, it's supported by local people. Anyway, that was great, Lauren, and I think that's a really good initiative, and I'm hoping that the Growth Hub will be able to help you make that a real big success. And I think this big event, we'd like to obviously include you in and be a big part of actually getting people to sign up at the event and getting them to understand that there are opportunities.
Yeah, definitely. That would be really good.
Fantastic. Any other questions before we move on? Brilliant. So Wendy, we've got some project updates here. Sarah, can you do the Biosphere Reserve update? I'm really keen to support this one as well. So
yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I'll do the video there. Okay, hi, my name's Sarah Rizvi, and I'm a planning policy officer with Forest of Dean District Council. So I'm one of the people working on the local plan under Nigel Gibbings. And I've been involved in the Biosphere Reserve conversation since the start. It was initiated by Councillor McFarlane, and then he's very quickly taken it to the FEP. And since then, it's sort of evolved into a group that we call ourselves the Biosphere Reserve Action Group, or BRAG is our acronym, and it's sitting underneath the umbrella of FEP. And it's really become a bit of a council-FEP partnership, but now it's widening out to bring in other stakeholders and other sectors. So essentially, Biosphere Reserve is a UNESCO designation, a little bit like World Heritage Areas and other big like AONBs, but it's got a slightly different flavour and kind of framework, in that it's about kind of sustainable livelihoods as well as just protected areas. So it's about defining a bioregion. In our case, the Forest of Dean district, which has protected areas within it, has sort of buffer zones around those protected areas where we're a little bit more careful about how we treat the landscape and the environmental values within it, but it also is broader than that to take out the balance of the district in terms of promoting sustainable sort of bioeconomies, for example, nature-based tourism, forestry, agriculture, local food production, etc. So that's basically what a Biosphere Reserve is. So we're pushing ahead with trying to have a conversation or promote the concept of designating the Forest of Dean district as a Biosphere Reserve. There's 8 in the UK, and there's over 300 in the world. So the likes of Isle of Wight and Isle of Man, and you know, there's a couple in Scotland and a few in Wales, so special areas basically. So it helps promote the region's unique natural values, internationally. So it's a good news for the tourism industry. It's good news for regional development. It basically puts Forest of Dean on the map in a lot of different forums. So we did apply to the lottery fund to do the next stage, which is basically wider stakeholder and community engagement. That went in at the very beginning of the year, but because of COVID, the whole lottery fund was basically just frozen and then redeployed to COVID relief. So our application, without even being assessed, was basically withdrawn or cancelled, which was a bit of a shame because we put a lot of work into that and we were feeling quite optimistic about running a whole load of community engagement to get to see what the community thinks of this idea. Like, we think it's a good idea, but we really need the support of a wider stakeholder group and the public before we know it's worth going ahead with. Now we've partnered up with Caroline Black of Canopy Arts. She's involved with quite a lot of different arts sort of sector organisations that are active in the Forest of Dean. And she's helped us put together a bid to the Arts Council, which is also within the lottery bucket, but they've released that just for general applications again. So the hope is that we are going to be able to commission 2 artists in the Forest of Dean, one to create a video or a short film about the Forest of Dean district, as well as the concept of a Forest of Dean Biosphere Reserve. And then somebody else will create a second artist would create an audio product. So that would be a podcast or, using storytelling and sound. And ideally we'll work with radio stations so that can be disseminated out through the radio. And that was in acknowledgement of our aging population and the fact that not everybody accesses content online. So hopefully we'll be able to, we'll be successful in that bid and we'll get around 10,000. The council's chipped in 2,000, so it's about a £12,000 project, mainly towards artist fees, but also towards promoting and engaging community around those arts products to try and firstly promote the idea of a Forest of Dean Biosphere Reserve, and secondly to get community feedback and hopefully involvement in the idea. So hopefully that bid will go in, this week. So it's ready to basically press submit, and then we'll have to wait 6 weeks to see an outcome. But if we are successful, then we'll be running this process for the first half of 21. So if anybody's got any questions for me.
Okay, Ian.
Yeah, I'm really interested in this. Some years ago, when I was deputy editor of a paper down in Cornwall, the sort of Eden, I was involved with the Eden project. What I don't understand, I'll be really frank here, is what this is. And I think there's a lot of people in Gloucestershire who probably think the same. I'm not in any way being critical, but I think when you start looking at budgets and videos and things, you've got to be very clear where your target market is. And I'm just concerned about the communication of it. It's a great idea.
Well, we hope to disseminate it as widely as we can through the district. So we're hoping to engage the Forest of Dean communities. And a lot of thought is going to have to be put into targeted communications and where's the best bang for our buck in terms of, the demographic that we've got here. But the idea is that we will elevate the concept in people's imaginations, and it will be like a lot more people understand the potential of a biosphere reserve here, and hopefully a smaller percentage of them will engage and give us feedback on the idea. I mean, there'll be people who think it's rubbish, and that's fair enough as well. They've probably got cause for that, so we need that as well. So I mean, if the community feedback is that it's not a good idea and that we don't need it, and we've got we've already got a couple of A and Bs and a couple of other things, then really that it might be a moot point. We might not go ahead with it, but at this point we're hopeful that the community feedback and stakeholder feedback will be positive. it is a bit of an abstract concept, biosphere reserves, and it is a little bit difficult to communicate because it's not a tangible thing, you know, it's a conceptual thing. But I guess the easiest way to describe it is it's another landscape designation. It's not a regulatory one. It's not got any, it's not like an AONB where it actually changes what can happen in there. It's more of a sort of symbolic landscape designation, but it does give status to that landscape, and it's an international designation as well.
I think I'm with Ian that we kind of need a clear kind of idea of what we're pitching here. I know I've got probably more details than most people because we've talked about it at the board meeting last week, but for most people, they kind of need a very clear, concise argument put to them as to why this is a good thing and why it's kind of requires the support it does. So, you know, I think it's a great idea, and I absolutely get the reasons for doing it. I think we may just struggle to get that concept over to people, and so we've got to work pretty hard to actually be able to show them the benefits that they're going to get as a result of this. And it is about status, it is about a culture, it is about, you know, thinking actually how do we do things in conjunction with nature and in conjunction with the environment. But you know, that's difficult to sometimes get across. So we should offer you support in being able to get a very clear message across. Andrew?
Okay.
Yeah, if I can come in order to get Biosphere Reserve status, it's actually a 2 to 3 year process, and that will be subject to funding an additional grant. Before we want to commit to that, we would need to get feedback from the community as to whether or not they would like to engage with the idea in order to make it into something more concrete. It's one of the reasons why we went for the Arts Council and using artists, because art's ability to enable people to engage, create, have a reaction and start a conversation. Taking those conversations will actually give us an indication as to whether there's a blanket no, which maybe we don't understand what it's about, or whether it's a yes, we're interested to know more. If we get more of those, then it's a case of saying there is probably grounds to take it forward to something which then makes it more concrete. Because if you take one of the issues, we're talking about the Forest of Dean and the district as being an area for the Biosphere Reserve. That may not meet the criteria of UNESCO. It may be specific areas within the Forest of Dean. We don't know that, and we're not going to do the detailed work that is required for that in order to give someone a crystal concept. What we're doing is saying, here is, in rough terms, what it's about. What's your initial feedback and initial reaction, using art as a way to get that message across? And that's why I think the project is worthwhile doing.
I think my perspective on it is, for a long time there's been a conversation about having a Forest of Dean area of outstanding natural beauty, and particularly those forest edges communities like Park End and places like that really do have special character, don't have any recognition of that within any formal way, and so it keeps getting touted about like maybe extending the AONB over those areas, but in some ways it's inappropriate because it's kind of paralyzes rural areas for their scenic value, whereas this very much acknowledges that these are working, living landscapes and that economy and industry is part of those landscapes, and it's really just working with those economies and sectors and industries to be as sustainable and complementary to the natural values as possible. And I know that's a sort of complicated way of explaining it, but to me that's where the merit is. It's essentially a landscape designation that's been developed under a different framework, which is not so restrictive, it's not so regulatory as an AONB or World Heritage Area. However, it does actually award a special area with that international status.
I mean, I agree with that, Sarah. You know, what we don't want is to bind the hands of the district in bureaucracy and not enable it to take advantage of some of the opportunities that are there. But, you know, Wendy will know that I'm absolutely dead against, you know, putting up lots and lots of tin sheds and unattractive houses in what is an absolutely beautiful place to live. So there has to be a compromise, and this is a way of being able to get that compromise. And to make sure that we're responsible for what we're developing. So I'm always keen on what impact will any of the developments that we're talking about have on the local area in terms of tourism, for instance, will become an important part of our future, and if you can do tourism in a sustainable and respectful way, then that's great. Industry will have a part to play, but what we don't want is to revert back to the late 18th century when the place was an industrial area that no one wanted to go to. So it all has to be balanced and compromised, and this is a way of being able to get that compromise, I believe. So that's why I'm supportive of it.
Neil, it's Chris McFarlane. I've got an observation to make.
Sorry, Chris, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. What Sarah hasn't mentioned is that the Office for National Statistics has already developed a business case for the Biosphere Reserve designation, and it comes out that for every pound you invest, you get about £3 back minimum. So there is a business case for using nature or natural resources and human resources together in a wise way to sustain both the economy, the society, and of course the environment. And let's not forget that we're at a stage now where populations of species are crashing, and biodiversity is integral to supporting ecosystems surviving. And if ecosystems collapse, then of course we collapse with them. So we've got a biodiversity crisis, and let's not forget we've got a climate emergency crisis with us now, and we need to deal with that. And so a Biosphere Reserve designation or Biosphere designation allows us to explore the innovations that we can produce and create to make the forest at least have a reduced carbon footprint, which is always helpful, and also to be more resilient to the impacts of climate and support biodiversity. Only one, and it affords us many benefits, but as others have already expressed, to be communicated better. Of course, having worked and lived in biosphere reserves for part of my life, I'm well aware of that. So that does need to be communicated. And in fact, this bid will allow us to have a video clip which we can put out on social media, which we can put out on all platforms to educate. And so it's a great bid. It's an invaluable and critical expression of interest that we need to use and support, and I hope we get it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Some really good points made there, and it is absolutely critical that as we develop the district, that it's done in such a way that future generations will be proud of what we've done. So, sorry, Chris, you're on mute there. Chris, you're on mute there.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. The Biosphere Reserve it's really it's sustainable development writ large, but truly sustainable, which young people will absolutely cleave to, because if you're looking after their futures, then what's not to like. And they are, just looking at Nick's presentation, if we can build with nature, we've got a program where we can do so. We're building homes for the future, for the children of today, and if we can do that in a sustainable way, whether it's passive house technology or whatever, then we've got something to sell and something to engage the young people of the forest, and also contribute to the wider common purpose, which is that humanity needs to get itself out of this climate change issue pretty quickly, because otherwise we're going to lose a lot.
And that's an important message, Chris. Right, we're going to have to move on now to the next project, which is, and thanks very much to Sarah and Chris there for some interesting facts. Chris, you're still on mute, unfortunately. We are struggling with some broadband issues there, Chris, but you have our support, and we're doing everything we can to help you.
Sorry, is that better? I didn't realise you weren't helping me.
It reminds me of that robot in the 80s there, Chris, that used to be on children's TV. Metal Mickey, I think it was. But we're going to have to move on now, Chris. Okay, but you do have our support. You keep breaking up.
Okay, go ahead.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Sarah. You have my personal support, and it was extremely well regarded at the FEP board as well. So thank you very much for your work. Wendy, I think this one's yours. Inspiring the forest.
Thank you, Chair. I've already touched on this Inspiring Forest earlier when linking it to the Axel project. So I think most people on the call are familiar with it. So back in March 2019, the FEP Stakeholder Group approved the Inspiring Forest project. It's a 3-year project that's intending to raise ambition for young people and families across the Forest of Dean. It's all about trying to connect young people and make them aware of the wide range of businesses in the forest and the career opportunities that are out there. And we're also trying to reduce sort of youth disengagement by applying, I think it's called the 4 business touch principles in what we're doing here. So to actually get some direct contact in school with businesses to demo what they're all about, really. And as we've said before, trying to make it fun and exciting, and to give some opportunities for hands-on tasks and face-to-face work with that. So originally we were split the IF project into 3 strands. We were thinking we'll be culminating in having a district-wide event, but to start with, we want to focus on some local events, and the Dean Magna one that we had planned earlier this year was going to be the first one. That's a local IF event, and then to have some smaller sort of more targeted events in schools and colleges as we go through. We've been very well supported in this programme. So after stakeholder approval, we've secured funding from Forest of Dean District Council's Community Grant Scheme, who've provided 3 years worth of funding. We've also secured G1st LEP support as well to get this project off the ground. So as I mentioned at the start of the meeting, we've got that money sitting in our account, and we're itching to spend it to get started. But COVID has intervened, and so we've had quite a bit of discussion in our education and skills subgroup meetings during October and November about how to tackle this and what can we do in the interim. And we've come up with an alternative proposal to kind of trail if you like, and to say what's coming, but to provide some digital content to share with schools and colleges about what this all means. So I want to bring in Rob Jenkins as well in a moment, because he's also on the call today, and he can say a little bit more about this. But we've, I think it was actually Rob's title, so he's claimed this one. See it, be it is what we're calling the digital proposal. And this idea is that we're looking to commission a professional videographer, filmmaker, to work with local businesses and to get some snippets from people, some sort of we could do some sort of talk to camera points, but we've also had ideas about doing some rapid filming. I think it's time capture, time lapse. Sorry, that's the word I'm struggling for. Time lapse film, so that we can show a day in the life of somebody working on a construction site on a particular project. It could be somebody at SPP Pumps, Suntory, Versarian, wherever. But just to do some quirky video clips, and as you say, make those fun. We've done a little bit of engagement so far with Gloucestershire College, who are very keen to be involved at their Gloucester campus, which is where their media students are based. And they're really excited about this one to get involved, to perhaps have students involved in some of the editing side of things, and perhaps to do some of the voiceover work. So we've got young Gloucestershire voices to actually explain the content and what it's all about. So we also talking very keenly with Rob and Alex from the LEP about how this perhaps could be a pilot for doing something similar elsewhere across Gloucestershire. So I don't know if that's a good point to bring you in, Rob, to just to say a little bit more about how LEP are seeing this one.
Yeah, thank you, Wendy. So yeah, our original involvement came from co-sponsoring the Inspiring Forest event, which was using some of my funding from the Careers and Enterprise Company, which is essentially Westminster funding. It was called Kickstarter funding, and it was to promote the work of the Careers and Enterprise Company and our Enterprise Advisor Network and the work we do with schools. So it seemed a really good opportunity for us to increase our visibility in the forest, so not just with schools but with businesses as well. So that's kind of how we first got into it. Obviously COVID hit, but I'm still really keen on this money staying in the forest, and that we still use it for something very similar. I'd be keen on still at some point in the future having those real face-to-face events. I think that's still really, really important. But if these video projects can kind of replace them in the short term, I think that's brilliant, and it really kind of plays into what we're trying to do. For me, Wendy, it feels like we're kind of there are kind of two tiers. I don't want to use the word tiers, there's too many tiers going on at the minute. Two levels of involvement. There's the kind of the 10-minute quirky videos where we're looking at maybe getting professionals to do it, but also the and that kind of I see as replacing the Inspiring the Forest event, but also the much kind of quicker and dirtier kind of see it, be it, which originally I put in for funding from a charity, just to buy some kind of GoPro cameras that someone could wear for a day in work, and literally create some very quick YouTube style videos that young people could access on various platforms. We'll use it on our Careers Hub. We've got the support of Gloucestershire County Council, so their Future Me project would really support this as well and tie into it. I've had a couple of meetings in the last 2 weeks about funding and support for it, and I know Gloucestershire College are really keen on being involved in it. What's key for me, I think, is that we do have this kind of a branding, especially that something runs through it. So each individual video is individual, but there is a branding that runs through it and holds it all together. GCC are really happy to be involved and will kind of match fund it in terms of some admin and editing support. They've got a couple of members of staff that are really proficient editors and content creators, so they'd be happy to be that kind of overarching mediators and hopefully working with the college as well. I've also recently started sponsoring the Punchline magazine for a skills, employability, careers page on their website, which has freed up hopefully some internal funding in the LEP. So I think I've twisted Dev's arm, which means the LEP will put some funding into this project as well. So in terms of the see it be it, I think I put a short paper together over Christmas. I think very early in the new year we'll be in a position to start buying some cameras and going out to employers and getting it moving. I want it to be really kind of quick moving. It doesn't need to be really, really high quality. I want it to be quite exciting and feel, as though someone's there. I know we have to be judicious with our editing, but yeah, I'm 99% sure that that one will start very, very early in the new year.
Okay, Rob. I mean, you have my my support in pulling Dev's arm up his back. I'm more than happy to help and assist in that. With the rugby season not going on this year, I'm kind of feeling the need for some physical exertion. But no, I know that we've talked about this before at the LEP board meeting. I actually want to see it. My view is it's much better to get stuff out there than to worry too much about it being too professional. And actually, do you know what? The kids actually quite like it being damn dirty and not looking too professional. I also would like to say that as a fellow of the University of Gloucestershire, I know that they have all the facilities to also assist in this and have been benefactors of GFirst money in the past. And I will mention it in Stephen's Christmas card that it might be an idea to get some of his students to help us to get this done sooner rather than later. So they may even have the cameras available to do something really quickly, but it's something that maybe Nicola and some of the employers could really get behind and start to show what goes on in the real world. So more than happy to support it. I am quite conscious of time, so if we could have any quick questions on this before we move on. We've got mobility as a service still to get through, how fast, how good, and the Farsetshire project, of which I'm a great supporter of. But I've got to spend more time supporting stuff, I think. That would be the key to me, not looking like a tramp. So, right, any questions quickly? Ian, quickly.
Very quick. Yeah, I think it's a great idea. What I'd like to see is kids taking this over and doing it. If you look at what Sky do with their young persons program, it's brilliant. Some years ago in the Urban Regeneration Company, we got kids doing this on how they wanted to shape Gloucester. Worked very well. I just think it, not rough and ready, but very, very professional and exciting.
Yeah, I think that's possibly a slightly different thing, but I think that'd be a really worthwhile project to run alongside it, Ian. Because this is, I think we want to be the employer, kind of relaying the message rather than the young person. But key for us, I mean, I don't know if I'm self-promoting, if any of you saw our launch event for our Careers Hub a few weeks ago, what the key message through that was the voice of young people. And of all the Careers Hub launches in the country, we're the only one to actually put young people at the centre of that message about what it's about and what we're trying to do. So yeah, I do take that on board, Ian. But yeah, I think that's something that is possibly next step stuff.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, any more questions at all from the floor? I think I can see just about everybody. I'm not 100% sure I can see everybody, but right, good. Right, can we move on then to the next slide, which is me to do, and I think it's you, David, to do mobility as a service.
That's right. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, just a quick update on mobility as a service. We've talked about this at a couple of stakeholder meetings. Back in September, we made a bid to the Department of Transport for some funding from them. We were unsuccessful in that as far as we could determine from their email that they sent, which wasn't entirely clear. But yeah, we'll take it as assumed that we weren't successful in that submission. We also were invited to go back to Innovate UK to bid for a different pot of money, which we're waiting for a response on with that at the moment. They make official announcements tomorrow, and any communications will then be embargoed until the new year on responses around that. We're confident about that one. We think it's we've refined the proposition based on feedback from an application to Innovate UK earlier in the year. And we've had a lot of support from people, and we've got a really strong team around us. And we're just going to touch on mobility as a service and the transport study and how this all ties together. So for those people that don't know, mobility as a service is, in really simple terms, it is basically every form of public mobility, from walking all the way up to rail services. It's sort of applying I guess as we'd see it, kind of an Uber style approach to it, with a bit of machine learning and artificial intelligence sat over the top of that to be even more dynamic than that. But in simple terms, it's about doing things on demand, creating a need for services, and then actually meaning that the services that we have within the Forest of Dean are actually viable, whether that's everything from e-scooters all the way up to rail services, because at the moment the direction of travel for public services is cut because they're just not being used, and we're not creating a market. So this is to completely overhaul that. Where that ties back into FEP is, as part of our mergers funding, we have included a £5,000 contribution to FEP to do a full sort of ground zero transport study. One of the challenges that we've identified is that unlike other marketplaces, public transport doesn't appear to be particularly well analysed. They can tell you footfall and data derived from actual users of their services, but actually market analysis seems to be rather thin on the ground and based on some theories of transport and how people intend to get around that really, they haven't changed since the 1750s when public transport sort of kicked off. So we can look to other parts of the world, or even the UK. You look at London and places like that, and they've got vast amounts of data, and they use that to good effect. The problem is, again, a lot of models are built around urban models and not about rural models, where the needs and requirements are fundamentally different. So yes, we need to make some serious changes, and the place to start with that is understanding what people's transport needs actually are in the Forest of Dean, and then we can challenge some of the assumptions that are made that we hypothesize are probably incorrect. And then finally, with these projects, we'll also be utilising FEP from obviously doing the transport study, but community engagement. This isn't about individuals using public transport, but this is about a district. So the businesses, what do they need? What do young people, retired people, commuters, families, what does everybody need, and how do we need to pull all of that data together? So it'll be critical to engage with the community. So it's a really quick rattle through, because I'm acutely aware that mobility as a service is, we've talked about it quite a lot, and we're very short on time. So any questions? No, I don't think so. It's looking fairly quiet, I think. Neil, I'll pass back to you.
Okay, I'm battling with a Hoover going on in the background here, so I'll keep it short and sweet. There are no more questions on the thing, so we'll go on to the next thing, which is how fast, how good, and that is down to our previous chairman, who did an outstanding job, Andrew Callard.
Thanks, Neil. So just look at this this slide. On the slide, we should actually have the URL for the report, which is now published on the FEP website under papers. It's a jolly good Christmas read for those who need one. If you don't want that, then I'm just going to give you 3 pages of slides of some of the key points that came out of it. Next slide, please. Oh, there it is. So go to the URL if you want that. So key findings. So we would be aware that, or may not be aware that in March of this year, the Universal Service Obligation came to effect for all broadband in the UK. which set as a minimum standard that you would get at least 10 megabits per second download, at least 1 megabit per second upload. And sadly, although it came in March and it was well signposted, and networks take a long time to do things, half our sample in our survey in the summer of 151 people, and 19% of the Ofcom survey done in May of this year in the rural areas failed to meet that obligation. What's the significance? Ofcom are talking about a 2% target to meet it, which is 600,000 homes. Actually, they're 2.7 million homes short. If, as you go into the report, you dig into the USO, you'll see that it is very difficult to see how it helps rural households. If you want examples of that, go and look at our Bridging the Gap case study. And also, some people would say it might be the urban service obligation because it's much more easier to do in urban areas. But the project that follows this presentation about Cinderford will show that might not even be the case. What else did our survey show? No, keep the same one. We have consumer uptake on all types of technologies. The only technology that isn't in the forest is cable, but we have all the others, FTTC and FTTP. In fact, there are more wireless respondents to our survey than there were to Ofcom's survey for the whole of the Southwest. That's only 7, mind you. What it does show is there is a big puzzle out there as why more people don't upgrade. 3 reasons why it could be. It could be people aren't really aware of what choices they have, which is coupled with their ability or desire to pay for them. It could be confusion or inertia, they're just expecting it to happen somehow. Or it could be they've had so many promises, they've all been broken, their expectation is not in the right place. We move on. One of the things we did look at, and one of the things that people would assume is that with COVID, more people are using their household broadband for business purposes. Well, the interesting thing is we went back to the data from our 2019 study, and if we exclude the retired, on that 440 odd sample, 90% of people were already using their broadband for business use. So the number of people using it hasn't increased. What has increased is the amount of time that people are using domestic broadband for business. So the clear message is the Forest of Dean, the district, is already in Industry 4.0. What we're not in is a smart economy because half of our people don't meet the universal service obligation, don't have what we would call decent broadband. In the report, there are lots of things around technologies, but the key one there is on the copper lines, the ADSL lines that were standard, the average speed is only 4.3 megabits per second, barely usable. As you move on to the next slide. If you want to read about the speeds, go and look at the survey. If you want to get really confused around those, it'd be a good thing to do. In How Fast, How Good, we ask something that Ofcom don't ask, which is about satisfaction. And this year compared to last year, people are more satisfied. But there is also evidence when you look at satisfaction that people lack the understanding of the effects of multiple users on higher speeds. We have some people who are getting 70 megabits download who are highly dissatisfied. The reason being they have 6 people in their household, and if they're all gaming, they're all watching television, and they're all got their mobiles on it, it chews it up. The other one is the actual physical distance from the cabinet for those people who are on fiber from the cabinet. If you've got 2 miles of copper wire from the cabinet to your household, it will restrict your speed. Half of the sample this year had also already answered the 2019 survey, so we've got a little bit of data that shows trends. 20% of them, 1/5 of them, had upgraded to higher technologies in the interim, and they were typically highly satisfied. We also had a fifth who had lower performance than the previous one, but interestingly, all of those were on fiber to the cabinet. And all of those, when they reduce their speed by 5 megabits per second, still leaves them with about 15 or 20 megabits per second. So they should all be very happy. So those briefly are the highlights of the summary. I would say go and read the report. Dave and I really enjoyed putting it together, but it does show that the Forest of Dean is leading on various aspects. It needs further help. And again, it's that issue about communicating effectively to the consumers and the general public what they can already do. They can already, most people, sign up. If they can't, start claiming under USO, start calling the foul, and let's make sure we have the broadband services we need. Questions?
That leads neatly into the next conversation about Cinderford, which David is going to take on. David, I'm conscious about time. I'd really like to try and keep this one to 5 minutes if we can, so that leaves us 5 minutes for any other business. And I've got a few points I'm sure other people have. So it's all wrapped up in the same kind of conversation. Our broadband is either absolutely amazing or absolutely pitiful. There are some major challenges to overcome in a rural economy. But without good infrastructure, both roads and communications, it's going to be very difficult to build a growing economy. So, David, over to you to talk about Cinderford.
Thanks, Neil. Just skip to the next slide.
I apologise, David. I'm trying to do 3 things here at the same time. There you go.
All right, marvellous. Okay, so I wanted to talk about Cinderford. There's anybody who lives in and around Cinderford might be aware of the fact that there's some issues with broadband speed in Cinderford. So I'll give you a bit of the context to this. Earlier this year, we were contacted by a resident of Cinderford who'd been put in touch with us by the town council. Me specifically as the lead for digital connectivity. Basically, the long short of it is that they'd moved there a year ago. They'd been promised fibre to the cabinet speeds, which is about 80 megabits per second, or whatever that falls out as after you've had it installed. Within Cinderford, there's some serious infrastructure challenges, which basically mean that the BT speed checker will tell you that you're eligible for high-speed broadband, but when you move in, they tell you that you're not. And that's all to do with how your particular premise is connected to the BT network. The resident, I mean, you know, I have to give a you know, I have to give a shout out to the resident, really, a guy called Anthony. He has done all of the legwork on this, and if we had more people like this, we'd all be put to shame, really. He's really done some legwork on this. But he went to BT and basically challenged them about the status quo. BT came back and gave him the technical excuse as to why it couldn't happen, and basically said, yeah, we're not that interested in fixing it either, because it's not on their roadmap at the moment to do something. Now, we did engage with the BT community manager, who is a different route within BT, who looked at a project within the area. One of the big challenges for Cinderford is it's not a rural area. It's considered under the government funding guidelines, it's an urban area, which means that most of the available funding mechanisms for upgrading broadband is around rural broadband, and therefore Cinderford there's very little government support. So they're reliant on a BT community investment programme. The problem with that is that BT's delivery model is that the expectation of that one person, Anthony, basically engaging with everybody within Cinderford to sign up to BT and pay the £60–70 that they've been estimated. Plus, that was dependent on hitting X number of people signing up. So as you can imagine, to coin a phrase, it would have been like herding cats. And, you know, to expect a member of the public to do that is appalling. It kind of shines a little bit of a light on the smoke and mirrors of some of the community engagement projects that are put forward by utility organisations, because, you know, ultimately they have the resources, but they're reliant on the local community to do all the legwork. So to cut the story short, Anthony was put in touch with me. I passed it on to Fastershire and asked what they could do to help. What they have put on the table for us is under their stage 5 funding. This is where communities basically put together an organisation. That organisation does the herding of the cats. And not even as complicated as that. It literally expects people just to demonstrate there's a level of commitment within a community area to invest in broadband. Fastershire will then put together a purchasing agreement and procure a high-speed broadband connection. And it was a very fortuitous series of events, because Cinderford is on the Fastershire we need to sort this, but we're not quite sure how project plan. So it came at a really good time. And what Fastershire put to us was that the FEP would act as a community group. We'll go into a tri-party agreement contract with Fastershire and whoever they select for us as a broadband installer. And then they will fund that installation, and basically there's a paper exercise where we sign a contract with Fastershire that reciprocates through as a tri-party agreement to the network installer. And the only risk to FEP is that if we didn't instruct Fastershire to pay the broadband provider, which is not going to happen, obviously there'd be a risk that the broadband provider could ask FEP for the money, but that's not a realistic risk. But it's a really good way of getting broadband into the Cinderford area. We've got 2 things we need to address. The first one is really an appeal to everybody who's on this call. In Cinderford, we need 50 people to sign up who are eligible and interested in the Fastershire broadband scheme. So to do that, they just need to go onto the Fastershire website and go through the the register my interest, and that will identify whether they're already on a high-speed broadband via BT and perhaps need to change their contract, or they don't have access to that high-speed broadband. The magic number is 50. If we can get 50 eligible premises, it creates enough of a market that Fastershire could then advertise a commercial case and ask for people to bid to install the broadband. And then we just close the loop by basically kicking the project off and paying them when it's done. So if anybody out there has any leverage on people in Cinderford, please get them to sign up. We're up to 36 at the moment. This project, I don't want this project to die because we couldn't get 14 eligible premises to sign up. It would be just, it would be criminal.
What's the deadline, David?
It's EU funding, so before the 31st of December. Basically, they want it done before Christmas, so they want the contract signed before Christmas. So I'm saying by the end of this week, we need 14 more people.
So I think I can get you 14 people. I think we just hit the social media and say this isn't going to happen unless we get 14 people to sign up in the Cinderford area.
Perfect. It's
I mean, there's I can't remember how many participants there are on the call now. There's 13 here. We've all got to invite someone from Cinderford to make this happen. So that's your challenges.
Absolutely. It's slightly scattergun because not everybody will be eligible. Because obviously, if you've already got high-speed broadband, you fall outside of the criteria. So but we kind of know who these people are. But we can't just go online and sign them up. They have to be genuine registrations. There's a social media campaign going out, including paper forms that people can complete and give back to the town council. So we're so close to pushing the button on it. But if arm twist.
David and Neil, my house is identified on there, so I'll put my name down.
Oh, no, absolutely. You make sure that you do, and go and nag your neighbours, Bernie.
I shall do, yeah. Well, not the next door neighbours. I don't talk to them, but up the road I will. Yeah.
Yeah. No, absolutely. We can provide you. We can provide you with locations, Bernie, if you fancy. In fact, I'm going to lean on you with this one. Anthony's doing a great job, but he's actually said that he will pound the pavements to actually get this done. So, I might point him in your direction to get a bit of moral support.
Okay.
Our politicians are used to pounding the streets, so I think we need to get everybody involved that we can. That includes the town council, and we need the likes of Mark Turner and some of the independents and stuff on it as well. As we've got to get this done. You know, and if we don't get it done, we'll have missed the opportunity of a lifetime, really. So
yeah, absolutely. So I'm just going to, sorry, Neil, I'm just conscious of the time. So one final step in the process is we've just got to get shareholder approval. There's a very small risk that, you know, we could not pay the supplier and end up in court, but I mean, it's not going to happen. I have launched a poll within Zoom. Can everybody on there please just indicate whether you approve of the plan, whether you want to abstain or whether you reject it? And then we can obviously get consensus from the stakeholder group and demonstrate that obviously we've got support and we can just go on and get signed up.
Perfect. I've done mine, David. I'm conscious of time. We are actually overrunning now, so I kind of want to get into any questions very quickly from those still on the call. No, we've got to get it done, Bernie. I'm looking at you and talking to your colleagues. Unfortunately, you're going to have to get on with your neighbour. It's Christmas. Give him a big hug. Tell him he's got to sign up and that you're sorry for anything that happened in the past. It's important, Bernie. Okay, we're looking at you to get it done. So, but I think it's absolutely important that we all take on the challenge of getting. You know, we all know someone in Cinderford. We've got to get them signed up and get them on for the good of everybody. Okay. Any other questions at all? Good. Right. Any other business? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around. I have because I'm the chairman, I can go first. That's part of my advantage. I really want to promote Dave Reed is on the phone. Are you still there, Dave? You've been waiting patiently. No, he's off doing something. Oh, he is? Yeah.
I am still here.
Right, that's enough from you. Okay, so Dave has come up with a great little invention with his friend, which uses locally sourced stuff, but and the website is thermomotors.co.uk. But the long and the short of it, there are an awful lot of businesses in the Forest of Dean that are creating great products, whether they be beer, cider, food. In the case of Dave, a piece for your home that operates via magic. It's the only way I can explain it. But what I want to do is get everybody kind of grouped together so that we're promoting the Forest of Dean as a place that has got good products that can be exported out of the district. And we do a good job of it, but we don't do a great job of it. And so I kind of want to get consensus. I have no idea how to run a poll, David, so we'll have to do that at some other stage. But I want to, as part of my legacy, have a made in the Forest of Dean kind of logo that goes on produce that is produced in the district that we're proud of. So there needs to be some kind of vetting process, but then we give the opportunity to showcase it through the Growth Hub. I haven't talked to you about this, Wendy, yet, and Nikki, but I want an area in the Growth Hub where we can show local produce and people can work out where they can buy it, and that should be our way of being able to drive economic recovery in some quite difficult times, both last year and the year coming. I don't know what everybody thinks. Is it thumbs in the air or a thumbs down? Too complicated to, all right, so they've got a few thumbs. Dave, you've not put your thumb up, so yeah, you've got that. Andrew, what do you think? Yeah, well, I didn't see your thumbs there. I'm not sure what you're doing with your hands down there, but yeah, got general consensus here. Yeah, so we'll try and have a think about that at the next meeting and try to get some of the really prominent brands that are already doing a good job on board. I'm thinking some of the breweries and so on, and get going on it. And we'll try and make it easy for everybody to get on board. Right, that's my...
Neil, were you thinking just food and drink sector specifically there, or could that be any? Could that be any sector?
Not at all. Okay. So I was using Dave's. I think it needs to be, you know, it needs to be carefully controlled. You know, we've got to be sure that the products that we've got on this register are fit to be there and are good, which they are. You know, no one's trying to do a bad job here. and it's almost like a seal of approval from the district that this is a worthy product that can be kind of moved out of the district. And I think the Growth Hub can do a great job of getting some of these businesses not only to supply locally, but to think about, you know, why aren't they supplying South Korea and China and so on. So and alleviate some of the obstacles there. I'm conscious of time. Anybody else got any other business there? If I could have hands in the air rather than necessarily signalling.
Can you see? Can I just say sorry? It's
yes, Sarah. Go.
Just an update on trains. I'm not the transport lady. I'm not the train lady. I want to be the job lady and the talent lady. But the update on the trains is the morning service from Lydney and Chepstow is sorted. The cross-country service. Okay, so we got that reinstated. Fantastic news. We're only halfway there though. We've still got a problem on the train coming home back to Lydney and Chepstow. So I'll anyway, cross-country aren't reinstating that at the moment. That's the latest from the rail ombudsman. So I'll drop some information about that. But if you could support anything that goes on social media, that would be really great, because there are kids hanging around in Gloucester Station for 60 or 90 minutes at 5 o'clock, between 3:30 and 5 o'clock at night. So it's not great. And that's changing people's work habits, families' work habits, commuting. You know, there's a lot of there's some safeguarding issues around that, and there's a lot of sort of flexible working issues around it. So just wanted to flag it up.
I think it also highlights the you know, why we need the kids to leave the county as well, so or the district. So that's a whole yeah. Bigger conversation to have. Yeah. But any other business for anybody else? So it falls to me to conclude my first meeting. I apologise for being 5 minutes over, but to wish you all a very Merry Christmas, and I hope you have a good break. I hope that we put 2020 behind us, and 2021 is much better for everybody. And I think we've got a great opportunity here to see some of these projects through to fruition. So thank you very much. Anything that I've missed, Wendy, at all before we sign off?
Yeah, sorry, Neil. I just wanted, did you see my message in the chat?
Yeah,
sorry, I know you're doing 10 things at once.
Yeah, I did.
It was just to say thank you to Mickey, particularly. I can do that now as I've started, don't worry. It's just personal thanks for to Mickey Lydia for single-handedly keeping the Forest Economic Partnership administration and communications going again this year. So just a huge thank you on behalf of the directors and stakeholders to Mickey for all your support this year. Thank you.
And to you, Wendy, as well. So it takes a lot to get this all together, and you know, hopefully we'll see you know, we'll see the benefits of all our hard work. So there's a couple of things that were in the chat box which I should have brought up. I'm just trying to frantically go through. There's some links there that we'll send out to everybody about the Excel Centre, and there's some contact details. And what was the one that came in from? Oh, I can't see it.
The message about the local plan consultation.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah, so the local plan consultation on the preferred location will end on the 29th of January. So they're inviting individuals and collective groups to comment on that, and we'll share the link as well to that consultation.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Mickey. Wendy beat me to the thanking the whole team, but it's a good organisation that we kind of need to really get behind and help solve some of the problems in the area. So thank you very much, everyone, and I look forward to seeing you after Christmas. I'm going to have a nice long break now, and enjoy the festive season fully. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks.
Merry Christmas.
Bye.
Merry Christmas.
Thanks, everybody.
Happy Christmas.
Good Christmas. Bye-bye.
Merry Christmas.
Happy Christmas. Bye.
Bye. Let's come over here.